Hi there, it's Michael Ackerman coming to you from Seattle, Washington, where I am a realtor with Coldwell Banker Bain. Today's video blog is for all you buyers who are out there searching for a home, and it's about should you waive your financing contingency? And I'm going to back up a little bit. We're in the Seattle market, and for the last 3 years, the Seattle market has definitely been a seller's market. There are way more buyers moving into town than there are sellers wanting to sell their homes, and so there's a lack of inventory. So when the demand is higher than the supply, prices are going up and competition gets really high. If a good condo or home comes on the market, there can be 2, 5, 20, 40 offers, just because there's not enough inventory. So buyers have gotten very savvy in the last few years, and so they are doing their due diligence up front in preparing themselves for success to make their offer the most attractive to the seller it can possibly be. So how are they doing that? They are pre-inspecting the property, which means they're doing their inspection before they make their offer, so that if they're okay with the current condition of the property, they're waiving their inspection. They're reading over the title policy beforehand. If it's a condo, they're reading over the resale certificate ahead of time, so that when they make their offer, they can offer the seller as few contingencies as possible. The seller looks at a lot of items when they're looking at an offer. They look at the value or the price they're being offered, obviously, the closing date, the amount of earnest money, how many contingencies. Is the buyer getting a loan? Is the buyer paying cash? A cash buyer is really attractive to the seller because the buyer can just write a check and close fairly quickly. Buyers in this market in Seattle who have wanted to compete with those cash buyers have started waiving their financing. So in the olden days of real estate, when people would make an offer, they would put in a financing contingency, which still does happen sometimes here, but it's getting more rare. The financing contingency says, we're getting a loan. If we're unable to complete our loan for some reason, we lose our job, we can't qualify, we get our earnest money back and we can terminate the transaction. It also includes an appraisal condition saying that once we are in contract, the bank is going to send an appraiser out to the property to appraise the property to make sure that the value that the bank is loaning the buyer to buy the home is equal to what other homes have been selling for in the neighborhood. So the bank has kind of a safety net to know that if the buyer defaulted, they're not loaning the buyer an inordinate amount of money that wouldn't make sense for the home that they're buying. So the appraisal needs to come out at the sales price. In the financing contingency, it says if the appraisal comes out lower, so let's say a buyer buys a house for $500,000 and the appraisal comes out at $490,000, there's a gap there. Either the seller needs to lower the price $10,000 to reach that $490,000 that the appraised value is, or a buyer would need to bring in an extra $10,000 to make up for the appraised value and the purchase price of $500,000 that they agreed to pay. If that doesn't happen, the buyer can walk away and get their earnest money. So when a buyer waives their financing contingency, it means they're waiving their right to walk away from the deal for any reason. It means that if you lose your job or you can't obtain financing for some reason, or if the home appraises short, you're saying, I'm going to bring in this extra amount of money to bridge the gap. Now, many buyers are doing this now in the Seattle market. I would say 95% of the deals that sell to buyers who are getting loans have waived their financing, which is a little bit risky. So the reason I'm doing this blog is just to explain if you're in a more mild market, you might not even want to watch this video. But if you're in a market like Seattle or Los Angeles or Miami or New York, San Francisco, there's a lot of hot markets around the country. It may be the linchpin that puts you over the edge in allowing the seller to think of your offer being the most attractive, and it could set you up for success to actually get a home. Talk it over with your broker or agent. There are pluses and there are minuses, and you need to be able to make an educated decision. You should probably visit the worst case scenario. And what I do with my buyers when we are considering them waiving financing, I only even suggest that if they are approved with a lender that I have a proven track record with. If it's a lender that has closed 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 loans for my clients, I can tell them this is a good option for you to consider. If they're getting their mortgage through someone that I've never worked with, I never suggest it. So if you're a buyer and you haven't worked with a mortgage lender before, or it's not a mortgage lender that your agent or broker has worked with, I would seriously consider not waiving your financing because I think it's just too risky. If the bank doesn't close it on time, you can lose your earnest money. If it's a lender that your agent or broker has a proven track record with and they know they're going to get the loan closed, the only real challenge is if it appraises short. I always run comparables for my buyers when we're making an offer to show them what the other homes have been selling for in the area, so we can make an educated choice on how high they want to go on their offer and what the chances are that it will appraise at that value. So the buyers, if they're waiving their financing, my buyers, are fully educated in saying, we know the pluses, we know the possible pitfalls, we're comfortable moving forward knowing all of these items. So it's a great conversation to have with you and your agent or broker considering waiving financing. Some buyers are not fine with it, and that's okay. Some buyers are fine with it, and that's okay. It's an option, though, that I think is worth discussing with your agent or broker so that you know that you have visited every aspect of making your offer as competitive as it possibly can be. Again, this is Michael Ackerman with Coldwell Banker Bain. I hope this blog has helped. And until next time, remember, it's all about the connection.